Cry is a riskless, talentless treasure hunter who desperately wants to retire. He has grown up now and is currently walking through the streets of the imperial capital. He explains to us how becoming a treasure hunter makes someone a hero of this world. Treasure hunters travel around the world and explore ruins called treasure vaults to collect relics hidden inside, risking their lives fighting monsters known as phantoms. In return, they get rewards such as vast riches and glory. Most of the treasure hunters join clans for fortification, and the best clans in the capital are called First Steps. Cry is heading to the clan as they are currently holding interviews to recruit potential new members. In this world, a clan is a collection of parties that come together to assist one another. It's an adventurer's guild, basically. Solo hunters in this world can only go so far, and that is why it's vital to join a good party if a hunter is aiming for higher feats. Unfortunately for Cry, he has failed several times to join a proper party, and that is why he is here to take the interview. When he is waiting in line, the girl behind him asks him if he's here looking for a party as well. She apologizes to him for asking him a question out of nowhere, saying that everyone else looked intimidating. That's why she approached him. Yeah, a guy in a Susie cloak hiding his face definitely doesn't look like an intimidating creep. Anyway, the girl introduces herself as Ruda Runebeck, a hunter who just got promoted to level 3 rank. She holds out her hand, but Cry awkwardly moves his face away, avoiding the handshake, and introduces himself as well. Nobody asked, but Ruda tells Cry anyway why she came here. She struggled to clear a treasure vault called the White Wolf's Den, and that is why she wants to join a party, as that would increase her chances of clearing it. A hunter overhears their conversation and mocks Ruda for trying to take on the White Wolf's Den while only being level 3. The guy with a big smirk on his face tells her that an amateur hunter like her shouldn't even dream of joining a prestigious clan like First Steps. Ruda takes his comments seriously and challenges him to a fight to prove her worth. As they argue, Cry gets hit with a headache, and he slowly moves away. Ruda brings out her trusty knife to fight the guy, but one of the security guards there stops them from escalating this mat any further. The guard threatens to oust the two hunters from the interview immediately, so Ruda calms herself and withdraws her knife. With things becoming peaceful again, Cry is relieved, and it seems that he is trying to hide his face from the security guard. Minutes later, both Cry and Ruda enter the clan's building, and Ruda specifically becomes overwhelmed after seeing how many hunters are here for the interview. She notices that Cry isn't that surprised, and that makes her assume that he has taken crowded interviews like this before. Cry tells her that this is his 5th time at this interview, and she realizes that he has failed to join a clan every other time. According to Cry, skill is everything because they can quickly rise in rank and make a name for themselves, while those without talent cling to the few opportunities they get. Ruda sees that in the recruitment section, there is a hunter party in the distance who looks too flashy. Cry recognizes them as the Arc Brave party, the strongest party in the First Steps clan. They recently managed to clear a level 7 treasure vault with only 6 members in their team. They are known as the elite of the elite, and their leader is Arc Rodden, who is glowing like a princess in the typical soap advertises. Cry tells Ruda to give her best to join their party, as her success as a hunter will be guaranteed if she is led by Arc Rodden. Sadly, there is one problem: the Arc Brave party has never accepted a new member through these interviews, meaning that they are only here for show-off. Ruda realizes that her chances of joining this party are 0, so she looks the other way and sees that there is a deck in the back with only an empty chair at their table. The guy from before Greg overhears their conversation once again, and comes to mock Ruda yet again for not knowing what the empty desk represents. He explains that the table belongs to a party that originally founded First Step, known as the Grievers. The Grievers were once a party of youngsters that came to this capital a few years ago who rose to fame in the capital with their dazzling talent. This party's full name is the Grieving Souls, and all of the members of this party are Cry's childhood friends. The ones we saw dreaming of becoming hunters at the very beginning of this video. Apparently, it's the first time in years they are accepting new members, and that is the only reason why hundreds of applicants have gathered here for the interview. Even the solo hunters who are against joining parties have gathered here with the only hope to join the Grieving Souls. But it doesn't seem that the Grieving Souls would be recruiting anyone since there is nobody on their desk to take the interview. A red-haired side character starts screaming all of a sudden, saying that he will become the main character. But we all know that's never going to happen. He annoys everyone there, and to shut him up, Tino, one of the solo hunters in the First Step clan, steps up and challenges him to a fight. Cry takes Ruda aside before the fight begins, sensing that something bad is about to happen. As he is about to sneak away with Ruda, Tino sees him and rushes over to him, referring to him as Master. The leader of Arc Rodden comes there and reveals that Cry is the clan master of First Steps and the leader of the Grieving Souls. Not gonna lie, I never expected this Rizless loser to be the greatest clan's master. Years earlier, Cry and his friends arrived at the capital to pursue their dream of becoming the greatest treasure hunter team, and according to Greg, Cry stood out the most because of his monstrous talent and founded the strongest party with his childhood friends. But Cry tells us otherwise. He takes a look back at those times several years ago, when he and his friends just made their way to the Imperial capital. His friends had monstrous talents, and they completed many treasure vaults for beginners in record speed. In one of the treasure vaults, a monster suddenly attacked Cry, but Cry's redhead friend saved him. In comparison to them, Cry was ordinary and would only get in their way. But they were kind enough to never say that Cry was weak and talentless. It didn't take Cry much time to realize that if he stayed too long with them, he would get in their way, so he made a selfless decision to leave their party. One evening, he gathered his friends and first thanked them for everything they had done for him. However, his friends didn't want him to leave. Rather, they wanted him to become their leader. According to them, Cry was great at giving speeches and basically forced him to stay in their party. And that is how, for years, he has been the leader of the Grieving Souls and the clan leader of First Steps, even though he is talentless AF. He desperately wishes to retire from being a hunter, hence the name, Let This Grieving Soul Retire. Going back to the present, both Ruda and Gray are astonished after finding out that Cry is the clan master of First Steps. The leader of Arc Brave, Arc Rodden, asks Cry why he came so late, and in reply, Cry gives the excuse that he overslept. Arc doesn't believe anything that Cry says, and according to Cry, none of the hunters of this guild ever believes him. Arc jokes around with Cry, which Tino doesn't like, so she tells Cry to kick him out of the clan. Tino is a hothead solo hunter who is an apprentice of Cry's childhood friend Liz. She keeps arguing with Arc, but he ignores her completely and asks Cry if he has any suitable candidate in mind who he wants to recruit in his clan. Although they have enough members in their clan, Cry claims that he has indeed found a suitable candidate for the Arc Brave party and tells Arc to choose them without taking an interview. Since it's the clan master's command, Arc agrees without any questions. However, his party members don't like the fact that Cry is forcing his opinion onto them. Before Cry can say who he has chosen, Tino interrupts him, confessing that she has her heart set on her and wants to join his party. Gilbert, the side character redhead from before, once again starts screaming and shouting at Cry, telling him that he should give all of them an equal chance. Cry considers giving this loser a chance and recommends him to Arc, with one condition. But first he asks him if he knows what's most important thing for a hunter. From Cry's perspective, a hunter should never lose. A weak hunter places their entire party in danger. And so Cry wants Gilbert to prove that he is strong enough to not lose. Cry even boasts, saying that he himself has never lost once in his life and becomes praised by everyone. But what everyone doesn't know is that Cry has never been in a proper fight. And that is how he has never lost before. Cry takes out one of the 10 rings from his hands and shows it to every applicant, telling them that if they manage to give the ring to the Arc Brave, he will recommend them to Arc Brave's leader, Arc Rodden. He then throws the ring at Gilbert since he asked for the opportunity first. But just as Gilbert is about to catch the ring, Tino lunges at him and smashes his head away with a kick. She then goes to grab the ring for herself, but many hunters rush towards it at the same time, causing the entire place to become chaotic. Cry mentions that his ring is a valuable relic, so whoever can get it will also get to keep it. He wishes them good luck and walks away, bidding goodbye to both Greg and Ruta. While the entire place is burning to the ground, Cry heads home as he has nothing else to do for the day. His home is actually a grand mansion and the official house of the First Steps clan. The vice clan master of First Steps, Eva Renfield, comes to him in his chambers and informs him that he has made the first page of the news because of the huge brawl that broke out today. Apparently, the recruitment interview ended with the entire venue getting blown up to bits. And luckily, there is no news of any injuries. The news ends with a statement that the Explorers Association wants Cry to take responsibility for his actions. According to Eva, Ark Rodden has already read this article and hasn't taken it seriously at all. Cry is relieved to hear that Ark is taking this too easily. But instead of taking the responsibility himself, he decides to put the venue's repair bill onto Ark's account and tells Eva to have Ark go to the Explorers Association as well in his place. Eva tries convincing Cry to go to the Explorers Association himself, but Cry refuses to do so as he doesn't want to go outside without a personal escort. He knows that if he doesn't go there, Gark, branch manager of the Explorers Association, will come to visit him personally. Before, Cry used to go out by putting on a disguise using a certain relic, but that has broken after being used too much. Eva assures Cry that there is no one in this world who will attack him if he goes alone during daylight. So Cry goes to the Explorers Association, placing his trust in Eva, and once he reaches there, he basically gets down on his knees and begs for forgiveness before the branch manager can even start scolding him. He promises Gark that he didn't mean to cause any trouble and repeatedly says sorry to him. Gark agrees to let it go this time if Cry's clan takes on a job from their association for free. The Explorers Association gets all sorts of jobs for hunters, and some of the jobs pay very little, and no hunters agree to do them. And Gark wants Cry's clan to take those jobs and do them for free. Cry quickly chooses one of them, which is a rescue mission, and decides to pass it on to Ark Rodden. When he returns to his clan building, he learns from Tino that Ark has left on a job already. Tino tries to prove to Cry that she is worthy to be his wife and shows him the ring that she ended up getting during the brawl at the venue. To reward her, Ark brings out the quest he took from the Explorers Association. But before he can even read it to her, she bolts away. Unfortunately for her, Cry has loads of op relics, and he uses one of them that can turn into a hound dog to capture her. Tino begs him to not send her on this mission alone since she is not that strong yet, implying that she wants him to be her teammate. But Cry teams her up with Greg, Ruta, and Gilbert instead, sending all of them on this dangerous mission while he enjoys every bit of it from the sidelines. A flashback shows us how the Grieving Souls came into being. 6 years ago, Cry and his party members from the Grieving Souls arrived at the Explorers Association for the first time to register as treasure hunters. The Explorers Association was the headquarters for all treasure hunters, and the imposing structure was intimidating enough to make Cry reconsider. He told his friends that he wanted to turn back and come another time. Having a sudden change of heart, he felt like he would slow them down since he didn't believe he had any talent, and he thought it would be better for everyone if he just returned home. The redhead, Luke, reassured Cry, saying he was just overthinking and told him to shut up and come along. Luke led the way into the Explorers Association, boldly introducing himself to all the treasure hunters as the strongest swordsman, and immediately announcing that he and his crew would become the strongest treasure hunters in the world. Liz stepped in to stop Luke from stealing all the attention, introducing herself as the world's greatest thief. After making their flashy entrance, the self-proclaimed pro-hunters proceeded to register officially. Luke began bragging to a large, intimidating guy about their party leader, Cry, quoting that a true warrior doesn't need a strong weapon to fight. Cry felt super uncomfortable with all the unwanted attention and wondered if there could possibly be any other rookies in the world as foolish as them. The receptionist handed Cry a party registration form, where he was required to fill in their party name and symbol. Although he was only a kid, he was already feeling so gloomy that he chose the name Grieving Souls and added a skull symbol as their logo. He secretly hoped that his friends would cringe at the name and kick him out. Cry's younger stepsister Lucia did cringe, telling him he had terrible taste. The others weren't fond of the name either, questioning why he would choose something that made them look like an antisocial, depressed emo boy band. With a mischievous smirk, Cry told them that if they didn't use his chosen name, he wouldn't feel motivated to become a treasure hunter. He even gave them the option to kick him out if they wanted a different name. His blackmail backfired, though, as each one of them eventually agreed to stick with the name. They even changed their opinions completely, saying things like how cool and funky it was, and that's how the greatest treasure hunters party Grieving Souls was officially born. Going back to the present, Cry has gathered Greg, Gilbert, and Ruta to team them up with Tino. Greg is still surprised to know that Cry is the clanmaster of First Steps, and asks him if he is truly a level 8 hunter possessing 1,000 tricks at his disposal. Before Cry can give them an answer, Tino steps up, telling everyone to just shut up and kneel before their great lord. Cry doesn't know how to get out of this situation. He was given the nickname Master of 1,000 Tricks based on his achievements and fame, even though he didn't do much to gain it, as he got carried by his op teammates all the way through. Gilbert is skeptical of Cry's strengths, pointing out that he doesn't even look like he has ever trained his body, let alone mastered 1,000 skills. Tino, who is totally blinded by love, tells Cry that she cannot team up with an idiot like Gilbert, although it is clear that she is the idiot for thinking Cry is strong. Cry recalls exactly how he became known as the strongest treasure hunter of the world. It was all due to Luke and Liz, who screamed all day in the city that their leader was the strongest in the capital, widely spreading those rumors 6 years ago. Anyway, Gilbert refuses to acknowledge Cry as someone strong and demands that he proves himself. Cry, of course, doesn't want that to happen, so he decides to just leave the annoying character out and only lets Greg and Ruta help Tino. Tino begs Cry to tag along with them on this mission, but he refuses politely and walks away, leaving Tino in Greg and Ruta's care. Gilbert, who apparently craves attention, doesn't let Cry leave and brings out his sword, telling him to prove that he is the strongest treasure hunter in the world. Cry, being cunning AF, chooses Tino as his champion and tells her to show this kid his place. She gladly agrees, but first does some stretches, showing us a glimpse of her sacred plot in the moment. While she is stretching, the annoying side character tells Cry that after defeating her, he will fight him and prove to the world that he isn't as strong as they claim. Tino gives an answer on Cry's behalf, telling Gilbert to stop dreaming as he will never be able to defeat her, let alone fight him. She promises that she won't hurt him too much and gets ready for the duel. Cry analyzes both of their battle strengths and concludes that it will be difficult for Tino to defeat Gilbert, as she is barehanded whereas he is using an enchanted sword. Fortunately, the egoistic loser throws away his weapon, which was his only advantage in the fight, as he doesn't want to come off as a cheater to everyone. Cry realizes that this guy is a total idiot, as a swordsman is nothing without their sword. I mean, a wise man once said the opposite: if you are nothing without your sword, you shouldn't have it. But whatever. Just before the duel begins, Tino demands that Cry treat her to some ice cream and persistently asks until he agrees. This motivates her even more to defeat Gilbert, so much so that she doesn't wait a second longer to show him his place. She kicks him in the face and then chokes him like a true mommy, telling him never to disrespect her master ever again. The fight ends without Gilbert getting even a chance to move his finger. Gilbert, who once thought himself to be the strongest swordsman out there, now realizes that there are loads of people who are way out of his league. He can only imagine how strong Cry may be, and Cry shows him a glimpse as he wields Gilbert's purgatory sword and unleashes its true powers just by gently tapping it with his foot. Massive flames continuously release from the sword, giving everyone a good idea of just how monstrously strong Cry truly is. It is revealed that mana materials happen to be the most important element of this world, but it can never be seen but only felt, As expected, the White Wolf's Den is home to a vast variety of treasures that house mana materials in abundance. However, this was home to silver moons, a kind of wolf monster who have gone into extinction after being hunted for their fur. Reading about these details, Cry believes it's a very scary place. He is worried about the decision he had made earlier to send Tino and her party there. Although, he believes the vault would be an easy task for them since it's just a level 3 vault. To get Eva from asking him any further questions, he immediately thanks her for the information she gave him on Gilbert. This happened to be what he had used to seem like an all-knowing magician when he told Gilbert the reason he left his old party. On the other hand, Eva brings up the issue Cry had in the training hall with a relic. He doesn't see this as much of a big deal since he claims that even Gilbert can use the relic without having any idea about it. After answering her question, he goes on to clean his newly acquired relics and doesn't stop talking about how much he loves relics. Earlier on, he had tried to purchase a purgatory sword to add to his collection, venue with how expensive it was. Hearing this, Eva angrily reiterates that there will be no wasteful spending. She reminds him that there was no need to buy it since he had many relics that are similar to it. This doesn't seem to be the case for him. He believes that each relic is different in its own way. He proves this by showing her the variety of rings he has which aid him in shooting and seeing in the dark amongst other things. Seeing that he cannot be convinced otherwise, she tries to reason with him by letting him know that even though their organization has a lot of money, he cannot keep spending it the way he does. Just then, she is reminded about his latest financial adventure by borrowing money from Citri. Instead of answering the questions, he reminds himself about the fact that his organization splits their income evenly amongst all members, regardless of their contribution. This makes his lazy ass a candidate for free cash always. At that moment, he realizes that he hasn't charged his relic and goes to do so immediately. While he charges his relic, this beardless apprentice tells him about a latest attack involving 3 level 3 guards who got attacked by a phantom. He is told about the Knights of the Third Order who are now on the lookout for new recruits to join their extermination party. Furthermore, he is told that this phantom has the shape of a wolf, with the location of the incident being not too far from the White Wolf's den. Due to this, he believes the phantom must have come from there. After that, he gets handed his now fully charged relic. However, he is bothered about this new information, especially since he had just sent Tino and her party in that direction. While he comforts himself with these thoughts, the apprentice continues to reiterate just how dangerous the phantoms from the White Wolf's den have become. He claims there are conversations going around about changing the level of the area due to how dangerous it is. Hearing this, Cry realizes that he didn't know about this. Just then, he gets told about a famous level 5 Lancer, whose party got lost in the same area. This makes him more worried about having to send meager level 4 Lancers to the same area. When the apprentice sees how worried he looks, they seek to know what's wrong. At that moment, he reveals that he had sent Tino to the same area. Hearing this, they are shocked that he would send her there, knowing that she is just in level 4. In order not to sound incompetent, he states that he only did that so she could get more practice. To ease things, he reveals that he had also sent 3 independent hunters with her. Even this does not ease their tension as they are more worried about his choices. Seeing how they are, he makes up some false excuse and leaves immediately. When he gets to a lonely hall, he tries to calm himself down with the thought that they would be fine, especially since Gilbert had the purgatorial sword. However, he remembers how he had exhausted the mana of the sword and is worried if Gilbert had charged it after. Meanwhile, Tino and the others advance in the woods. There, she reveals that she had written her will before coming since she had a feeling that this would be a difficult task. She believes that Cry had known about how dangerous the White Wolf's den was before sending them. To back her up, Gilbert reveals that Cry had even known the reason he left his old party, claiming that Crow sure has an extensive amount of knowledge at his disposal. With this, Tino lets them know that her master is no child's play when it comes to knowledge of every hunter in the city. This leads them to believe that Cry sure knew about everything before sending them here. Unknown to them, the idiot has absolutely no idea about the phantom. He is worried about this and sits in despair. He hopes they would return on their own, but remembers just how strong-willed Tino was, which would make it impossible for her to return without finishing the task. With no other option, Cry decides to go and save them on his own. He hopes he will be able to stop them before they get to the treasure vault. Back in the woods, Tino and the others eventually encounter a phantom and are shocked to see that it has a sword and armor on. Even after facing this, she still believes that this is all a test from her master and is ready to fight it. Meanwhile, Cry scatters his relic collection to find a suitable relic to aid his quest of saving TJNO and her party. After searching for a while, he finds the perfect relic. Just as he is about to leave, Eva stops him. She believes he is worried about Tino even after he had fully calculated the task, not knowing that the dummy didn't think the last through like she thought. Just then, she sees a Citrus slime on his neck, which he had carried as a last resort since most of the relics he could have used are out of mana. Just as he is about to leave, Eva worries about him. However, he assured her that he would be fine and activated the relic to fly away to Tino's location. Watching him go, Eva recognizes this relic as the same replica from the human missile incident, which doesn't have any safety features. The relic named Night Hiker. Greg, Gilbert, Tino, and Ruta slay a monster after lots of struggle, leaving them confused because normally such strong monsters don't appear in a level 3 treasure vault. Greg asks Gilbert why he didn't use his Purgatory Sword's fire, as that would have been great help in subjugating the monster. Gilbert in reply claims that his sword is completely out of mana, realizing that the Riz-less loser drained all of it earlier when he was showing off his capabilities. Anyway, Gilbert claims to not know how to recharge his sword's mana, and that makes Leaves much more vulnerable than he is. Ruta suggests they retreat for now and come another time after preparing themselves. Greg also suspects that the people they are supposed to rescue for this mission have already been killed, but their leader Tino still wants to stick to the plan. She hasn't given up yet and tells the others to also get it together as they haven't even entered the treasure vault yet. Greg begs Tino to reconsider, saying that all of them surviving is much more important than completing what looks to be a suicide mission. Tino strongly believes that the people they are here to rescue are very much alive. Moreover, she doesn't want to go against her master's decision, so she keeps moving forward, telling the others to also blindly trust her master like she does. She also deduces that her master doesn't want them to rely on relics, since clearly her master deliberately depleted Gilbert's sword's mana. While the delusional master lover believes in her master's non-existent master plan, the others are still skeptical of it. But having an ounce of trust in her, they keep moving forward and head to the gate of the treasure vault, discovering dozens of crimson wolves, all armed with bows and guns. According to Tino, this treasure vault, the White Wolf's Den, was created as a home for Silver Moon wolves, but since these are the Crimson Wolves, who are much larger in size than the Silver Wolves, she suspects that they won't be able to move that well inside the den. So, she suggests they fight the wolves in the den instead of fighting in the open like last time. Gilbert, being the bravest out of them all, volunteers to head in first and grabs his sword, coming up with the straightforward plan to get rid of the wolves' bows and guns somehow. Tino stops Gilbert, calling him an idiot, a dumbass, and a numpty at the same time for coming up with such a stupid plan. She strictly advises him to not do something rash, as he will just end up getting himself killed in vain. Since her master is counting on her to act in the capacity of a leader, it's Tino's duty to get all of her party members back alive. So, she once again tells Gilbert to follow her orders and then comes up with an actual plan to take down the wolves. Since Tino and Ruta are much more agile than Greg and Gilbert, she decides that the two of them will draw the enemy to them first, and then Greg and Gilbert can clear out the wolf pack's back line from behind. And in case things get dangerous, Tino tells everyone clearly not to use anyone as a shield or sacrifice them because her master would want everyone to be alive. Meanwhile, her master Cry, who is flying towards them in his unstable suit, hopes with tears in his eyes that Tino is still alive, even if she has to use the rest of the party members as meat shields. This transition shows how deeply Tino understands her beloved master. Anyway, Tino's gang proceeds with the plan and uses their teamwork to get the upper hand. Although it looked difficult at first, because the enemy has no concept of cooperation in them, they just follow the simple divide and destroy strategy and eliminate all of them without losing a sweat. But the battle has just begun because more and more monsters are approaching their direction. Still, Tina is calm, as she is confident in her party members. She analyzes her team and becomes impressed by Gilbert's strength regardless of his big, loud mouth. Greg has a lot of battle experience, so he coordinates with the other members well, doing some proper teamwork. Ruta, on the other hand, doesn't do anything too flashy herself. But being a hunter of the thief class, she detects the enemies for the others, allowing Tino, the assassin/DPS, to focus more on her combat. Seeing that they are cruising through this treasure vault, Tino's belief in her master consolidates even more, making her wonder if her mastermind master is some kind of deity. Gilbert recalls the day he scolded his former party members for always being a liability to him. His strength grew at a much faster rate than theirs, and the gap between them became so big that he chose to leave their party. Back then, he didn't consider his old teammates' feelings, but now he understands that they were only desperate to prove themselves to him and ended up getting into unnecessary danger. He only understands this because he too is now desperately trying to prove that he is strong and worthy to be a member of this strong treasure hunter party. Anyway, they continue walking through the treasure vault and reach a wide area where Tino senses the possible boss of the dungeon behind the walls. Just by sensing the boss's aura, Tino suspects that it is too strong for them to deal with. But her trusting in her master's non-existent plan, she believes that they will be able to handle the boss as well. Greg hesitates to fight the boss because he has always avoided engaging the enemy he can't defeat. But Tino simply motivates him and changes his mind. She also motivates everyone else, telling them that it was their master who cherry-picked every single one of them to be in this adventuring party, as he deemed them worthy of accomplishing this mission. Ruta, who isn't special in any way, wonders why she was picked out of everyone else, and Tino assumes it's because she has some pretty big chug-jugs. Finally, they enter the boss room, while on the other side, Cry continues to search for them, and because his suit has no brakes, he crash lands into the treasure vault at supersonic speed. Unaware that her master is on his way to save them, Tino and the others get set to go up against the huge white wolf. They assume that this is the boss, but their thoughts are cut short by the gruesome attack of the wolf. Fortunately, she swiftly dodges its attack and runs around it, trying to figure out a way to take it out. At first they consider retreating, but Tino eventually notices that the wolf isn't putting on a helmet, which could mean that its head was its weak point. She continues to believe that this is one of her master's trials to test her and is determined to see it through. She urges the others on, and they are pumped to take the monster down. Their attack starts off with Gilbert charging at it and shielding himself from its heavy smash. After that, Greg attempts to injure its leg, but is slapped out of the way. Without wasting much time, Tino and Ruta take the flanks as they come at the monster from both sides. Meanwhile, Ruta is shocked to see how fearless Tino is and admires her bravery. On the other hand, Greg gets up and is about to join them again when the monster slices his sword in half. Seeing this, he is shocked to his bones and loses track of the battle. This serves as the perfect opportunity for the monster to finish him off. Fortunately for him, Ruta successfully got him away just in time. This distraction allows Tino to run up the monster's weapon and pierce the back of its head to finish him off. Watching her do this, the others are thrilled, and the monster gradually fades away. After taking out the monster, Ruta spots an injury on Tino's leg and is worried about her. But she urges her not to worry and brings out a potion which she pours on it to heal herself. Meanwhile, Greg is sad that his sword would break at a time like this, but Gilbert tries to make him see the positive side, which happens to be the fact that he is alive. When the four meet up, Greg thanks Ruta for saving his life, and she is pleased to have helped. With the monster out of the way, they decide to go ahead with their rescue mission. Before they continue, Tino hands Greg her own sword to use in place of his broken sword. He accepts it thankfully, and before they could get comfy, a bright light shines in the darkness. When they all look in the direction, a spear comes flying from the direction. At that moment, 3 more large white wolves reveal themselves. Seeing them, they are all shocked beyond imagining, especially since they had thought they took down the only leader of the White Wolves. While every other person panics, Tino is bothered about why her master would put them in such a situation. They all look up to her to figure out what their next line of action would be. After a brief moment of thinking, she directs them to run into a passage beside them to make it hard for the monsters to swing their weapons. Just before she could finish talking about the plan, one of the monsters goes to block the passage, leaving them trapped. With no other option, Greg and Gilbert decide to act as bait while the girls seize the opportunity to escape. They charge the girls to take the passage and go away since it would be better for just 2 of them to meet their maker than for all of them to. While they talk about their self-sacrifice ambitions, Tino tries to figure out what her master would do in a situation like this. Just then, she remembers the shooting ring similar to that worn by her master which she owned. This gives her an idea, and she turns around to inform the wannabe messiahs that today is not their day. She points out the monster's eyes as its weakness and offers to deliver the final blow if they back her up. Once again, Gilbert charges at the monster, and is able to keep its weapon busy while Greg pierces its leg. Immediately after, Ruta throws her knives at its eyes, but it closes just in time. Just then, Tino remembers the time when her master taught her to shoot with the ring, and she seizes the opportunity to try it out. In one shot, she is able to blast the monster's eyes, making it groan in pain. While they watch and try to access the situation, the idiotic Gilbert decides to finish things off on his own by charging at the monster. Just when he was about to deliver the final blow, the monster slaps him to the wall. Worried about him, Tino comes running and is pleased to see that he is alive. He apologizes to her for not listening, but she assures him that it wasn't his fault. On the dark side, the anger of that one monster is communicated with the others who now seem to feel the same and are about to harvest the sorry lives of Tino and her crew. Just as they are about to be reunited with their ancestors, Cry comes crashing into the monsters. Seeing him, Tino is shocked but pleased as well. Greg takes a look at the monsters and realizes that they look scared. In their fear, one of them tries to strike Cry with its sword, but it has no effect on him. This is very surprising to the monsters as he falls on his back in disbelief. To curb his curiosity, Cry confidently reveals that he has 17 lives and cannot be harmed. In retaliation, he blasts the living daylight out of the monsters. This show of power gets Greg and Gilbert amazed at how powerful someone in level 8 could be. Having shown such power, Cry wonders how such powerful monsters would be in a level 3 treasure vault. Shortly after, the monster gets up, leaving them surprised and wondering how it would survive the attacks. However, Cry is unbothered due to the fact that he knew shooting rings were not strong enough to take the monster down. To finalize his attacks, he brings out the vial on his neck and pretends to drink its content before throwing it up in the air. After that, he blasts it, causing it to be a kind of smoke bomb. Since the monsters were occupied with the pain from the blast, Cry tells the others to run as fast as they can while he joins them. While they run for their dear lives, Tino is intrigued at the fact that her master had come to save them. This reminded her of the time they first met. At this time, he saved her from being attacked by some slave hunters. This had driven her to admire the Grievers and want to join them. Back in the present, the crew eventually get to safety and Cry notices the injury scar on Tino's leg. He uses a healing relic to rid her of the pain and the scar. Meanwhile, Greg is curious to know if he took out the monsters for good, but he reveals that he didn't. Instead, he instructs them to walk even further. They follow him blindly, even though the idiot has completely no idea where they are headed.